Hi, everybody. Welcome to Thursday of Summer Fishtrap 2021. Whether you're a Summer Fishtrap participant hanging out and taking workshops all week, or if you're just in the general Fishtrap world out there, tuning in at fishtrap.org or on Fishtrap's YouTube channel, I want to thank you for tuning in. I think you're in for a treat. Our featured reader, our final featured reader of the day is Ellen Waterston. And Ellen was just telling me, oh, I hate long bios. Just cut it short. But there's so much great stuff to say. I just have to tell you that a few things about Ellen Waterston. She is a writer from the high desert of Oregon. She's published 4 books of poetry and 3 literary nonfiction titles, including last year's Walking the High Desert: Encounters with Rural America Along the Oregon Desert Trail. Of that book, Timothy Egan said, "There is no better guide to Oregon's high desert than Ellen Waterston." That's saying something. While the West is full of poets who love the land, few of them are as intellectually nimble as Waterston. That was really nice. Ellen teaches nonfiction at the Oregon State University Cascades Low Residency MFA program. She is the founder of the Writing Ranch, which conducts retreats for writers, and she founded the Waterston Desert Writing Prize, which recently was adopted by the High Desert Museum. I could go on about Ellen's works and contributions to the literary community, but I just want to say one cool thing. Ellen Waterston has been an important part of Fishtrap and the Fishtrap family for a long time. Let me just tell you a couple highlights here. She was a 1998 Fishtrap Fellow, and I know that we have at least one Fishtrap Fellow in the audience this session. A Fishtrap Eastern Oregon Writer in Residence in 2005, a Werner Writer in Resident in 2011. She's attended Winter Fishtrap several times, and now it's her 3rd year of leading a Summer Fishtrap workshop. Most recently, this was just last week, Ellen was telling me she's having great fun writing a column for the Source Weekly titled Third Act, a column on ageism and aging. Ellen, could you tell us a little bit more what that's all about?
Well, I was, if you hadn't mentioned that, going to say that I was 12 years old when I got the fellow, but you blew my cover. Geez, Mike. Yeah, ageism. I don't know. It's sort of, BTW, none of us get out of this alive. So I'm hoping to not only speak to contemporaries, but also to warn millennials and Gen Xers and everybody else what they're in for, what they can look forward to. And it's not as bad as you think. And it really doesn't matter what you think, because with any luck, you'll take a long time getting there.
That sounds great. I was reading a few of them recently, and it's just, I encourage you all to go take a look, as well as all of Ellen Waterston's titles. In the chat, I put in the link to the Book Loft's link to Ellen's bookshelf. You should take a look at that and grab a copy. So today is Ellen's featured reading. I can't wait to see, of all the different things that you write, what you've picked for us today. Would you read us a story?
I'm going to do just that. And I just want to do what seems sort of the obligatory thing, except that I really, truly, deeply mean it. I mean, I want to thank Shannon and you, Mike, for herding cats, and Janice behind the scenes doing the same. Emily, I haven't had the chance to meet Emily, but I welcome her to the staff, volunteers, fellow faculty members. I hate Zoom for that reason that we can't all hang. And of course, your industrious board and the hard work any board of a nonprofit does. Well, never mind the staff for a nonprofit. But we've created a lot of good writing trouble out of, well, the thin air of Zoom. I do know that I am so appreciative of the Gang of 7 in my workshop, taking risks and inspiring me every step of the way. I'm really enjoying it. We do, of course, wish we were by the shores of Lake Wallowa, but absent that, we're having a really good time, and I'm very grateful to each and every one of them. So I was going to do a safe reading. I was going to do a tried and true reading. And then I thought, well, dang, if I'm asking my workshop folks to take risks, I'd better do it too. So, and Mike referenced the subtitle of my most recent book is Encounters with Rural America along the Oregon Desert Trail. The desert has been my muse for years. I don't know how much longer that'll last, that it's my primary muse. I'm sort of entertaining some other ideas, but these readings are sort of more of my love of the people that I know out in this big, vast, high desert place. And this week we've been exploring a lot of collisions of genres, a lot of sort of porous membranes between genres, and the freedom that it offers all of us, really. And in that spirit, I wanted to share some new poems of mine. Some are still works in progress. And I don't know if they're ballads or story poems or this prosody, whatever. But I think in some ways, or I feel each one of them in their way touch on this notion of resilience. And actually being resilient is also, it's also kind of tender. It's vulnerable to be resilient. It's an odd assignment. I think we've all addressed it and met it this past year as best we can. And these stories also reflect my abiding love of this high desert and its people. So first, the story of Luis. The title is Unicorno. Luis, he's the one in the white hat, built like a fire plug, punches cows all week, then moonlights bucking his rank Brahmin bulls at all Mexican rodeos, like this one. Young men, black hair slicked, wearing purple satin shirts and matching slacks, blast trumpets, stomp pointed boots in time to the prancing Paso Fino horses, fetlocks combed and flowing. First rider of the night draws the one missing a horn. This bull's reputation has created a new form of dread. Cowboy climbs on, too frightened to be afraid, pulls down his hat, figure eights a death wrap around his left wrist and palm, raises his right hand and nods. Unicorno, the announcer bellows. Brute strength bursts out of the chute, flank strap cinching bull's haunches. El Toro Unicorno. Rider seesaws his spurs, neck to belly, of the twisting gyre of muscle. Unicorno's enormous head wags, spittle flies. Luis would tell you his story is not that of the rider who hangs on for the full 8 seconds, wins a belt buckle and some cash. Not the speed bag boxer dancing in the shadows of the barn, staying quick and strong. The punching rhythm is even and sure as the bull rider's rocking spurs. Not the man who hangs bull testicles above his bed to bless his virility, and when the moon is full, kneels to place hair and chicken bones at the base of the tree. Not the rodeo clown who taunts Unicorno, dives inside a barrel, gets butted the length of the arena, then, when it's safe, climbs out to take a clown bow, one hand across his waist, the other generously gesturing to the crowd as if to say, don't forget, life's a cabaret, a roulette, brief, beautiful, and strange. No, Luis explains as he bites into a taco chopped cabbage spilling on the arena floor. No, la fuerza, la voluntad, la fe. Make it across the border. Meet Lupe, father, 3 sons. Mine is the story of Unicorno. I keep my head down and go to work. So that's your first story. It's not a bedtime story, so stay awake. The next one is the story of How, H-A-U. It's titled Happy Nails. I don't know if any of you have been to some of the Vietnamese staffed nail parlors that sort of proliferate in areas of the West. This is about one of those. Happy Nails. Downbeat mall on outskirts of tourist town. Salon air filled with fruity smell of acetone. Vietnamese in masks sign white foot to basin, white fingers to bowl. On the wall, a metallic Buddha, a poster of bright purple horses running into gauzy clouds, a swivel-eyed cat clock with a tick-tocking black tail. Ao says hello, spreads a white terry towel, arranges bottled color tiny scissor file. I place my palms down. He bows his head, studies my fingers one by one, plucking them like strings of a dan tran. Then flapjacks my whole hand this way and that. Two caramel children scamper through, home from school, beaming. He shoos them away. Very good, very, very good student, very smart, my sons. We spend an afternoon like this, face to face, close to done. He applies scarlet red polish, my old hand supported in his young palm, mismatched in size, age, color, joined in circumstantial prayer, arrested applause. What arc of history, of story brought us both here now? For some reason I don't know, I feel filled with hope. Raising the tiny red lacquer-soaked brush in the air like a conductor, he asks for my other hand. And now we're going to meet a ranching couple who've been ranching for quite a long time and have seen a lot. And this one is titled, Life is Uncertain. All he wants when surveying the windrows, the fresh bales, when nursing purpled nail and blistered palm, is to know she'll be waiting for him at home in the evening and he can ask her, do you remember when last February's record-breaking snow buckled the barn roof? The melt flooding the fields and filling the daylight basement? He joked he had to swim to bed, wear irrigation boots to shoot pool. When the Pandora moth carcasses were so thick last June, they piled up like snowdrifts under the streetlights in town, the wings and antennae like frail, dusky ferns on the pavement. Or in August, when the swallows suddenly left, their acrobatics and tart chirps no longer spicing the evening, their empty mud-daub nests like featureless faces mouthing no, no. How bereft he was, rattled to see them go, and no sign of them since or now. Or when the greasy smoke from the forest fires never lifted all fall, the water in the swollen reservoirs and nursing rivers recruited until dry, the sun an angry orange coming and going in the sky, throwing bloody flames when eclipsed by the moon, how he'd shuddered at the sudden darkness and cold. Or when the saloon in Paisley stopped serving dessert not even fudge cake. How, without dessert, without anything sweet, the way the world was going to hell in a handbasket, he didn't know what to eat first. He wasn't joking anymore. All he wants when surveying another season is to know she'll be waiting for him at home in the evening, and he can ask her, do you remember when we couldn't have said any of this? She'll take his calloused hand in hers and nod and say she does. So I'm going to close with an invitation to us all, particularly in the face of the drought in this part of the West, and particularly, really, I guess I was going to say a particular region, but it's so widespread, and the evidence of that is pretty much everywhere. This summer of early fires. So the invitation is the title of the poem. Know your place. The river only says things once. Listen or risk silencing this liquid jubilee. Yes, please take what the river says personally, because where water is, life is. Where water is gone, life is no more. Where water is impure, so too you and me. The limits of water are the limits of we. The river only says things once, but how we do go on, fancy dancing ways to disguise all the ways we aren't paying heed, the long tongue of conflicting policies, well-intended hydrologies, slap the water like a beaver's tail, but fail to curtail our greed. The river only says things once, while our thirst wrings the west dry. Narrowing tree rings map our fate, illustrate the doomsday drought atlas, the fragile concentric equation of tributary river, ocean, and rain is on life support. Drought comes on tiptoes, a creeping disaster. Crops wither, waters get warmer, fish die, honey, turn up the AC. We slipstream along, buy into gilded misinformation that makes death by desiccation read like a fairy tale. What to do? Know your place, know our place, become fluent in the river speak of the watershed where each of us lives. Learn the lyrics of the tributaries' infinite melodies, fecund, silky, mysterious, there eddying, here glassy, still, a watery call, the brief calm before lion's roar of falls, thunder drum and blitzen, then off again, Sally frothing, brimming, bicker chatter like it got away with something. The river only says things once. In some stagnant pools, it's already but a whisper. So we must be quick, no time to dither, polish water's mirror, see ourselves as renewing, not consuming, not caching, but catching, then releasing every droplet, more crystal and clear than we found it. End the cycle of drying, of denying. Stand on the hydra stage, contemplate the moving shore there where the shed ends, the water begins. That is our place to know, our home's address. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh,
Yay,
Ellen,
back at you.
it's such a delight to hear you read. That you're so good at it, and there's so much. It just feels a breeze. There's a breeze throughout your work. I have a few questions, but I also want to open it up to the group. Type any questions you have into the chat. But I loved when you talked about no dessert. When talking about Paisley, no dessert in the desert. You know, I was like, but right at the beginning in your introduction, and then you illustrated this throughout your readings. you talked about your right now and for a long time that the high desert has been and is your muse. Could you talk a little bit about what that means for an artist to you, what a muse does and offers?
I mean, I've sort of become hackneyed because of how often I've said it, but I do feel in my experience coming from New England, as I've said, a sort of stone-walled New England, that this desert would turn out to be the landscape I've devoted well over half my life to. I think that I somehow was drawn here to learn what I needed to know. I mean, it's been such a great teacher. Any landscape that we really embrace and get to know deeply is that teacher, can be that teacher. But for me, it's been this one. The vastness is so precious. The emptiness is so precious. Just a side note, I really felt, I don't know if any of you remember years and years ago, The Gods Must Be Crazy, this funny documentary of a Coke bottle falling out of the sky in Africa and this small tribal town being totally mystified by it. Well, I was out at Summer Lake recently enjoying this beautiful view of the Milky Way and then thought, oh my God, the handle of the Big Dipper has broken off and is moving slowly across the sky, all the stars evenly spaced apart, no blinking. It was the most horrifying thing. I felt something was dreadfully wrong. And guess what that was? That was Starlink. That was Elon Musk's creation. It looks very like, you know, because of the size of the satellites, the train, it's a whole train. So it literally looks like a piece of a large constellation simply has dislodged and is moving. It doesn't blink, it doesn't do anything. So anyway, that felt like a trespass, the likes of which I haven't experienced before, which made me all the more adamant about, you know, the dark sky movement, all the things, all the invitations of this high desert. And as I say, we need to know our place. Wherever our place is, wherever we put both feet in the circle of that place.
Gosh, that would have unhinged me, my mooring too.
Totally. I was completely unhinged.
Kristen asks, how do you feel like your writing has changed, developed, or even stayed similar in the past year? I assume it's having to do with us living through what we've been living.
Yeah. That's such a wonderful question. I hate it when people say that about a question because they're obviously buying time to think about an answer. So I launched a book during COVID. I've done a lot of Zooming during COVID. I think my writing feels ragged. I have to accept that. It's sort of elbowing. It's kind of got some sharp elbows right now. I am working at, speaking of putting both feet inside the same circle, working at a new, longer, ambitious project. So I will say, I think there's a period of recovery after a book comes out. You know, whatever, however that manifests, however that happens. There's a sort of a postpartum, and then there's the, oh my gosh, and yeah. So there was that. And I think that this question of aging is not a small thing. How to use one's time, but you can become so preoccupied with that question that you just freak out and don't do a thing. So it's that's sort of contributing to the sort of the raggedness of it. And I will say that the more, for years I've taught through the Writing Ranch. I've been very lucky to be involved with Fishtrap and other conferences, leading workshops, that kind of thing. But now with the low residency MFA at OSU Cascades, I'm learning so much through teaching. And it's this huge invitation, right? So that's why I really feel like with these workshops, we're all holding hands, all of us together, myself and the gang of seven. And it's a mutual learning. We're all just learning together, which I really, really appreciate in any format. Believe me, Zoom is not my first choice, but that's a hard question. I'm going to have to work on that one. I'll get back to you.
I think we should inscribe in stone that line that you just said. I'm learning so much through teaching. Isn't that wonderful? That last poem that you read, was it titled Know Your Place, or was that the first one?
Yeah. Know Your Place.
You said several times what the river says, and that was the very first summer fish trap I attended in 2013. That was the theme that year, what the river says. Which makes me think, Megan Walsh asked a question, I'm going to say the second part first. She's working on a book about water and would like to keep that poem in her inspiration folder. Is that poem available in print, or will it be?
I hope it will be. The closest thing to it being in print is that it was an earlier version was commissioned by the Deschutes River Conservancy this year for their annual fundraiser. So it's a different reading of it is there, but Megan, thank you for that, and how exciting that you're working on a book about water. Yes. So you can find out from Mike how to reach me if you want, and we can talk about this. But yes, I'm glad that poem spoke to you. Thank you.
Lucky for you, Ellen's easy to find, and she answers emails and inquiries. So that's
cool. Like praising the kindergartner for the behavior you want to see happen. That's an old trick, Mike.
Funny, thanks. I'll keep that one in my folder too. I have another question for you. We were talking about this with Shannon was talking about this with Joe Wilkins, and maybe I was too. And you two have some you talk, at least these pieces. Some of these pieces were a lot influenced by the landscape, and you are both prose, nonfiction, and writers, and as well as poets. Do you know when it's going to be a poem and when it's going to be a story? Or has it ever switched up in the middle, or started one way and changed into something else? Can you talk a little bit about when you're writing what?
Mm-hmm. Again, this is part of my answer to Kristen, which is I used to have a kind of a glib answer. Yeah, I always knew it shows up as an essay, or it shows up as a poem, or it shows up as, but now maybe because there is this porousness between genres, maybe because something else is happening. That's what I feel like, is that something's emerging, but I'd say at the end of the day, if I can tack down the hide of an essay or a longer form prose with a poem, it's really like I've got it bottled. I've got it like a little firefly. I've got it. So sure, I could take that life is uncertain and really talk, in sort of essay form about the assault, what that couple felt. And they're not asking anymore, when will it go back to normal? That's gone. That question is gone. So yeah, it's kind of every which way, I would say. And the discipline for me really is to not and my gang of 7 will be appreciative of this, is to reduce the number of words. And so start with a poem and expand from there, so that you're kind of overcoming the inclination to carry on, as I am prone to do.
I just have one more question for you, and if any others come in, especially resonant in the first couple 3 pieces, whether it has to do with happy nails or being on a ranch or in the landscape. Tradition, cultures, dress, expectations, generational expectations, superstitions seem to come up a lot in your work. Is that something that's on purpose, or is it just pour out as you create?
One of the conversations that we're having among those of us in my workshop right now is the notion of our land being taken, our culture gone, however it happened, our own culture, however we identify, whether it's a gender culture, whether it's a place, whether it's a more traditional loss of land, such as Native Americans have experienced, Indigenous people everywhere, and so the overlay of culture and tradition, of ethnicities onto our culture, whatever the heck that is of interest to me. And the role that what might seem sort of, I don't know, primitive, maybe, the superstitions, the practices, the rituals, also gain importance, just because ritual, whether it's the ritual of sitting down every day and writing, but rituals are important. So I'm loving where the conversation is going with our group, and just that whole speculation in general is feeding some ideas before this Fishtrap event of what I'm hoping to do in this next bigger push. So what can I say? The other thing is wanting to be as respectful as I possibly can and as curious as I possibly can about the family, the family of America, the full family, all of it. And yeah, there's lots of stumbling and falling going on, but somehow that moment of my hand resting in the hand of this man, and we were just, I'm sure you've been there, Mike, when you're at a nail salon and you're only inches away from
I know all about it. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you would identify, but it's a kind of an amazing spatial relationship that's going on, and it was an emotional little moment. We were just, there we were, hand in hand, and it seemed to have significance, and it was related to my trying to understand the whole my relationship with the Vietnam War. So
well, Ellen Waterston, your curiosity and energy, it must be so much fun to be in your workshop. They're very lucky folks. And
more fun to be in the workshop than in my head, probably.
Well, I want to thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you Summer Fishtrap participants for joining in, whether you're watching this live or watching the recording, and everybody else out there in the Fishtrap world for tuning in too. It is Thursday of Summer Fishtrap 2021. We have a little special treat for you tonight as you're putting your feet up, doing your edits, thinking about other things, having some food. At 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be airing a little concert from downtown Enterprise. And then tomorrow, we start Friday. Oh my gosh, how can it already be Friday? So you'll have your morning workshops, and then at 2 p.m., Janae Brown Wood is giving a craft talk, The Music in Books for Reading Aloud. At 3 p.m., Lainey Zumas is going to do her faculty reading, and Sharma Shields at 4 p.m. We're going to have an open mic at 5 p.m. via Zoom. You'll sign up for it via the chat in Zoom. Also, sometime during the day, you'll be able to watch a recording of the Summer Fishtrap Youth Showcase. So, thanks for tuning in,
nothing never
everybody.
happens.
Continue on, and we'll see you either tonight for the concert